Hey everybody, Aaron Frazier with Utah Smoke Free Association, just to give you kind of a legislative wrap up and some additional information that I need to make sure gets out there since the session is now ended. Um, Lots of things has happened over the last 3 or 4 months, much of which you guys are already aware of. I've made a lot of notes here, so my apologies if I come across as reading a lot of this. But there was a tremendous amount of information that needed to get out there to our community, and I wanted to make sure I could get it out in a kind of a logical order here for all of you. So, as you know, the 2017 Utah legislative session ended last night, midnight last night. And I do want to give everybody an update, as I mentioned, how things kind of finalized out after the midnight bell rang up at the Capitol Hill. So as the session began this year, we actually had 6 bills that were filed, which affected our industry. 2 of those were bills that we as an organization requested, which would have allowed our specialty stores to maintain sampling and demonstration in our shops, while at the same time also protecting our industry against underage sales through the use of electronic age verification. This is a process that a lot of you guys are already using today. It's something that we as an organization certainly have been pushing for a number of years. Unfortunately, because of some tremendous opposition, our bills were given less than a 10% chance of passing, and they never saw the light of day. Again, this was due to tremendous opposition from the retail merchants associations, and primarily due to the statewide health organizations who targeted our bills as their number one bill to defeat for this entire session. So, as you can imagine, trying to go up against all of these alphabet health agencies and all of the Utah health agencies, just is almost an insurmountable task. I wish we could win them all, but as you guys know, certainly when it comes to politics and legislature, you can't win everything that you hope to do. I will say that Representative Ray's tax bill was dead before it was even heard in committee. That's the first time that has ever happened in 6 attempts to tax our industry. The bill that we had to increase penalties was withdrawn. I believe it was on Wednesday evening, and that was mostly due to work by our lobbying team to ensure that it was being drafted to actually target where the actual problem with underage sales is originating from. As you guys know, we do everything that we can to stop underage sales in our specialty shops. In fact, most of our shops have an almost perfect track record over the course of the last 3 and 4 years in stopping underage sales. So, we're doing something right that the others are doing wrong. And the intent of this is to try and make sure that we target that properly. The bill to raise the use age to 21 for tobacco products was defeated. What was really interesting about this bill is Representative Eliason, who was the sponsor, indicated to our lobbyist and certainly to us that his bill very specifically excluded vapor products from the age increase. That's the first time that was attempted here in the state, and I do believe it may have been part of the reason that it failed. But what was most interesting about this particular bill is when he presented it to the Business and Labor Committee early this week. I saw something from him as a legislator that I've not seen from anybody else, and that was actually presenting the most comprehensive truth about our industry and about our products that I've heard not only from a Utah representative, but from almost any representative anywhere. So it was really refreshing to see that he's a supporter of our industry. He recognizes the harm reduction that the industry is founded upon. And I think we may have an advocate in our corner up there that we can hopefully partner with in the future. And then lastly, there was a bill that, upon its initial presentation, would have shuttered over a dozen, maybe up to 20 small business owners through some new licensing that was put into place. And because of some botched testimony during its presentation a couple of weeks ago, It actually allowed us to have some conversation, have some dialogue with the sponsor, who quickly became to realize that his bill was going to shut these businesses down, and that was not what he intended to happen. He is a supporter of small businesses. He does not want to see anybody go out of business, even the vapor industry. So we were able to negotiate with him and add in language to change the grandfather date for the zoning to protect this, 12 to 20 businesses, along with the 100 plus staff that they employ. That's really a good thing for this industry because it means people's hard investments, the money that they put in, their life savings that they put into this, will not go to waste and will not get shut down. Unfortunately, we ran out of time in the final hours of the session, to get this approved. It went through all the committees. It went through all the discussions it needed to. It just needed a final approval in the Senate floor. We were next in line to be heard when the closing buzzer rang at midnight last night. So we're not done with this yet. I do believe that we will have an opportunity to continue to address this throughout the year and into the next session to protect these businesses. But nonetheless, it did fail, unfortunately. Overall, there were no additions or any changes to any existing laws that affected the industry. It's not a bad thing. Again, we didn't win everything. We lost the sampling and demonstration. That was set to expire on July 1st. We tried to save it, but the health agencies in the state of Utah, the retailers, all these other organizations came together to fight us on it, and we just didn't have a loud enough voice. We weren't big enough to fight back against it this year. Hopefully, we can change that next year. Something I do want to say is, many people out there do not understand quite how the political system works, and this was really a driving factor for the reason that I started the Utah Vapor 6 years ago. In fact, it was 6 years ago this month. This is our 6-year anniversary. It's always easy to sit on the outside and cast stones when you truly do not understand the inner workings of politics. We've all done it with certainly the presidential election this year and other political events that happen throughout the country. What many don't realize is the vast majority of the work performed at the Capitol each and every day, and what you all see is a very tiny slice of the process. Deals do have to be made, negotiations do occur. It's just the way that politics works. Our organization for the last number of years has worked intimately close, certainly with other state vapor organizations, the national vapor organizations, as well as many other industries, other lobbyists, and even some of the health agencies to try and coordinate efforts to make sure that the steps being taken are the right ones for everybody, not just a select few. We work very closely with our lobbyists. Our lobbyists work with other lobbyists. They all meet in back rooms. What you see on some of these TV shows about backroom deals really does happen up there. There's a lot of closed door sessions that occur that, businesses and the general public don't get a view into. And this year is evidence of that. We cannot and we will not win them all. We want to. But we have to recognize that we're simply not going to hit 100% each and every time. So with that said, I want to cross out of the legislature and into something else here. And many of you may have already heard this, but after 6 years of fighting for the industry, I made a very difficult decision to step down as executive director. It's not a decision that I made lightly. And it's one that I did make before this session even began, because I reflected on the roadblocks that I placed on my personal life over the last 6 years and realized quite a number of things. Many of you know that I work outside the industry. I don't have a financial stake of any kind to it. I don't take a penny of compensation for anything that I do here. Nor have I allowed our board to be compensated for anything either. But as I've reflected on this, I realize that I've purposefully held myself back from advancing my own individual career so that I could have the time and flexibility needed to service this industry and service each one of you. And it's time that I start focusing on my family, my life, and my own career. Some things are changing within in my employment that, if I don't keep up with the changing pace, then I will be out of a job, and I will no longer be able to support the industry, and nor my own family. So it's really important that that I have that capability to refocus. What many of you don't realize is, for the last 6 years, I basically spend 4 months full time outside my day job, basically protecting the industry that saved my life, and for many years has stood for helping smokers make the switch. I really don't know what happened, but over the last maybe 12 to 18 months, the industry that I and many of you deeply love has changed, and for some reason is no longer catering to the smokers that need this industry. There's many in our own community and in our own industry that we have fought to bring together to make a strong, unified voice. For some reason, decided that helping smokers is no longer the most important thing. Many have become focused on drama, self-inflation, which is leading to implosion. This is not just a Utah thing. This is an industry-wide thing across the globe. Many in this industry seem to be focused on self-preservation and egos than having and maintaining a vision to protect the entire industry. And this comes at the unfortunate expense of the smokers who many have forgotten. For the last 3 years, my board, me personally, and even many in our own community have been verbally attacked and accused of many false accusations. We've offered proof to counter this, and people still continue to sling mud. They bring up the same arguments over and over again. We keep fighting for this industry we love because it's the consumers, it's our smokers who need this industry more than anyone. And I don't understand why, but so many have lost their way and only care about their personal status or individual gain. And that's not something I can continue to fight for any longer. Further to that, I personally have been accused of fighting for illegals, or better known as vape shops, who got screwed over by our city zoning offices and were granted permits where they shouldn't have been. And that is true. Not going to deny it. What many of you may not realize is 4 years ago, before the Utah Smoke-Free Association was even officially formed in its current state, I fought for 4 specialty shops in Bountiful. On Christmas Eve, the city served them eviction notices because, through no fault of their own, frankly, the city fucked up and issued them a license. I spent my entire Christmas and New Year's holiday fighting the city and the press, through the attorneys, all to protect the investment of these so-called illegals and for the continued employment of their, I guess it would be, illegal employees. I spent my summer fighting to protect another shop that, after a year in operation and through no fault of their own, had their license revoked because they were 50 foot too close to a smoke shop. This is wrong across the board. This should never happen because of city screw-up. We spend this time fighting for this shop, for the shops in Bountiful, to protect the investment of these illegals. I vowed then, and I vowed once again, to continue this work, to keep it from happening to anybody else. It's unfair, it's unjust, and it should not happen. There's been at least 4 other of these quote-unquote illegals throughout the state of Utah that were forced by our incompetent and unethical state offices to relocate their businesses. That cost them a combined hundreds of thousands of dollars in lost revenues, lost reputation, loss in customers, and immeasurable stress both at home and in their business. Yes, I fought for these illegals. Yes, I did it again this year. I will continue to do it as long as it's necessary to make sure that these people are protected. We don't want this to ever happen to anybody in our business or any other business. It's just wrong. So I did continue the fight this year to protect over a dozen small businesses from losing their life savings, and for around 100 shop employees from being fired. That was HB 370 that I mentioned early on, that was the zoning bill that failed. I'm not going to apologize for fighting for that. I fought for the illegals, as they put it, to ensure that the vapors and, more importantly, the smokers of Utah have quality small businesses to go to when they need quality vape supplies and guidance in their new smoke-free life. I also will not apologize for that. I fought for illegals to give our manufacturers in Utah a business in which to place their products and grow their business. Because if a dozen or more retail outlets close, so will our manufacturers. And I most certainly will not apologize for that. While we did lose the ability to sample products beyond July of this year, it would have been a much greater loss for our current and future customers to lose the ability to purchase anything at all. And if you can't see that, I'm sorry for you. I want to remind everybody that at shops of all types, mixed, specialty, and even smoke shops, that has the potential to help a smoker make a switch to a better alternative. This is something that you can never forget. The landscape in this industry has changed, and we need to be accepting of it. For every single shop that disappears, for every brand of e-liquid that disappears from the shelves, there are hundreds of smokers that will never understand the benefits of switching, and hundreds of vapors that will likely return to smoking. I'm sorry there are so many in this state that are only focused on their business or their pain instead of thinking of the pain of the families that will lose loved ones to smoking-related disease should these shops or products disappear from the shelves. I will never be sorry for fighting for the smokers, for our business owners, and for this community as a whole. We had a good run over the last 6 years. We did lose a few battles. As I mentioned, nobody wins them all. But there's not a single state in this country who has fought longer or harder, nor has faced a bigger attack against the industry as we have here in Utah. In 2010, before many of you may have even been vaping, this community fought and defeated the first ever attempt in the U.S. at the state level to fully ban vapor products. In 2011, during our birth month of the organization, this community fought back against the first ever attempt at a flavor ban that would have wiped out the industry in Utah and sent shockwaves across the rest of the country to follow suit. From 2012 to this year, we defeated 6 attempts at taxation, more than any other state in the country. We took regulations never before introduced in any other state, which would have destroyed the industry in Utah, and we worked closely with regulators to soften them to a level that the entire U.S. industry, including Utah, could work within. We defeated 5 attempts to raise the vaping age, which only served to remove safer alternatives from the shelves. 6 years ago, we had 1 retail shop and 1 manufacturer. Today, we're at over 100 small business owners, many of whom would not have existed today without the kick-ass fight that everyone, the consumers, the businesses, and us as an organization have put up over the years. So for those that have been strong supporters of the Utah Vapors back when it was just Jason Kornfeld with electronic sticks and the great team at the Gourmet Vapor Factory at our very first vape meet where the Vape Fam was born, and of course more recently the founding members of the Utah Smoke Free Association, I thank you. You know who you are. Matt, Jen and Louie, Nick, Jason, Weston, Paul and Tam and Riley, Austin and your team, and so very many more. To the past and present board members, I appreciate your trust in me personally, in sharing my vision for the industry and for the principles for what this organization was founded on and continued to operate on for 6 years. Each of you remains with me throughout my life, and it's all of the supporters that make this decision very difficult for me. Above all, I would like to thank my wife for putting up with my ignoring her for months at a time, giving up our evenings, our weekends, 5 years of vacation time, 6 birthdays, while I tried to save an industry that saved my life. I would like to thank the advocates around the globe who mentored me and coordinated with Utah over the years to protect our businesses and our consumers. Julie with CASA, Greg with AVA, Tony with VTA, Dimitri and Jeff, just to name a few. Of course, even the angry Wyoming woman, who many of you know, who fought for Utah when she didn't have to, but has become so much more than a friend to me. I would also like to thank our lobbyists. These guys are really, really important to make sure that they are recognized here. Andy and Charlie came to us with no experience in the vaping industry. They fought tirelessly for us at the Capitol for 2 years. I would like to thank Jessica, who helped our team up there this year and guided us last year through a very turbulent session. What many of you do not realize is our lobbying team are the true heroes over the last couple of years. They fight battles and broker deals that none of us would ever be able to do alone as individuals or as business owners. They spend 14 hours a day or more at the Capitol throughout the legislative session to make sure our industry remains functional. It is this team that deserves so much credit and rarely receives it. So with that, I'm now going to issue a formal apologies to everybody who supported us and the industry at its core and believed in what we fought for year after year. I apologize because I am stepping down to turn this organization over to a new group of people to carry on what we founded 6 years ago this month. So over the next 30 days, we will be accepting nominations for replacements for not only myself, but the rest of the board of directors. I will personally remain around for the next 8 to 12 months to ensure a successful transition, to ensure that the work that we started is carried on. But if for some reason adequate set of replacements are unable to be found, we will have to make the very difficult decision to completely dissolve the organization. With that, I challenge anyone out there who believes that they can do as good or better than we have done over the last 6 years and to make this industry stronger, to put your actions where your mouth is. If you care enough to cast stones and criticize, I challenge you to step up and protect this industry that is employing over 1,000 of your community members statewide. Step up to protect the over 50,000 consumers in the state who depend on the industry surviving, and the over 200,000 more smokers who so desperately need it. Step up and see beyond your personal business and fight for the small equally as hard as the big. Remember why it is that we're all here. It takes the entire community of businesses and consumers to save the lives of our fellow Utahns, not just a half a dozen of specialty shops. Please give up the us versus them mentality and the rhetoric and fight for this industry that tens of thousands of lives in Utah and millions more around the world so desperately need. And please do it quickly to ensure the lobbyists who have worked so hard for us each year remain with the industry to protect us throughout the rest of the year and into the years to come. Despite how some of you may feel towards me personally, I will never hold ill feeling toward anyone, and I truly wish each of you the best of luck as the industry grows. For those that have not believed in this industry enough to invest in protecting it financially, I challenge you to do so immediately so your interest, those of the current and future community, are protected. I thank you for listening to me. I know this was a long video, but there was a lot that needed to be said. Again, I wish you all the best. I love you. Have a great vape day.